James, you've done the blue-white game a couple different ways here, roster-wise and all that since you got here. What's the plan for this year?
Yeah, I think for the most part we've done it, the same way we'll do it this year, which is, basically ones versus twos. The first unit, typically there's a little bit more guys on that unit because there's some guys that we know aren't going to play a lot of reps in the game. But overall, ones versus twos. I would make the argument. I think this is where the mid-semester guys are so valuable, because without them, it would obviously change the way we could, run the game and the way we run spring practices. So that number seems to continue to soar and grow. But yeah, it'll be, the blue squad will be primarily the ones, and the white squad will be primarily the twos and threes, guys that are competing to try to win jobs or win more significant roles.
What do you hope to get out of it? Because obviously you guys go through spring, it's practice number 15, but do you have any specific objectives in mind for that? Or?
No, it's just another opportunity to go out and evaluate the guys. You guys have heard me say before, a lot of times you go into the stadium and it's different. I'd like to get into the stadium more during spring ball. I'd like to get into the stadium more during camp. With the weather this year, we weren't really able to do that as much as I would have liked. But just going into the stadium for some guys, on Saturday, Micah Parsons comes up to me with wide eyes about being in the stadium. So I think getting in there and being able to do that is important. It's even amazing, the slope of the field, just all those little subtle things that you wouldn't necessarily maybe think about. They factor in. The lights, the jumbotron, all those types of things. I like to get some night practices as well. But the spring game, it's an opportunity for us to go out and make some plays in the stadium, build on some things that we did during spring ball, gain some confidence, have some fun, and then really kind of put some closure to the end of spring practice.
Where are you guys, James, heading into those last two sessions you have left? Could you tell us where you are kind of team-wise, and if you've gotten done what you wanted to get done so far?
Yeah, I think we have one session plus the spring game, if I'm correct.
I think that actually counts as one. But
yes. So typically the last practice is more of a jog through. We go through and teach all the young guys how we go to the stadium, how we stretch at the stadium, how we are in the locker room. So it's basically a dress rehearsal as well as a walkthrough. So it's kind of a combination of our normal Friday in-season walkthrough plus a total game rehearsal, so these guys kind of understand what to expect next season. So not a whole lot we'll do on Friday. We will watch today's tape with them and get those things cleaned up over the next couple days. We'll have fairly vanilla game plans on both offense and defense. We'll go over those things. But I think the other thing is, you guys know, it's a great opportunity. Brent was the defensive coordinator on the white team for a couple of years, and Ricky was the offensive coordinator on the white team for a couple of years. So it's also an opportunity to allow those other guys to call the game, to manage the game, and get some experience. It's very valuable for me to see how the defensive coordinator running the two offense on the white team, how he does against our one offense, and the same thing with our two defense against our offense. You know what I'm saying? So there's value in that as well in terms of evaluating the staff.
James, along those lines, the integration of David and Jaywan, how has that been, and what new have they brought to the coaches' room?
Well, what happens is first of all, they've been great. Some of you guys know this, some of you guys may not. I interviewed David 7 years ago when I hired Josh Gaddis, so I've known David for a long time and been tracking him and building that relationship. Jaywan is a guy that I've really just gotten to know here recently. But early on, there's not a whole lot in terms of guys bringing their own ideas or perspectives. And don't get me wrong, we have conversations and they have input like everybody else. But right now they're trying to learn our systems. And then once they have our systems down pat, which they're pretty far along with that, then that's when they bring the most value, where they can bring their perspectives from Army or from UConn or from West Virginia or from Florida. And that's happening now, but I think it becomes the most valuable once they know our systems and our culture, then they can add to it. So they've been great so far. They've been great fits culturally, their families as well. But I think we'll gain the most value with them, after spring ball, after spring recruiting, when we start to go through these things in more detail this summer and for training camp.
You mentioned Micah earlier. You've been to a number of these blue-white games by now. I'm just curious, how much does this game mean to those early enrollees, since this will be the first time they're suiting up? It's not 110,000 maybe in the crowd, but I got to think this still means a lot to them being able to play in front of their friends and family.
Yeah, I think it means a lot. It means a lot for us to be able to evaluate those guys and see if they are who we think they are, how close they are to being able to contribute, and for these guys, like you're saying, to be able to get up there and play in that stadium, which a lot of them have seen a lot of games as fans or as recruits, and for their families, it's really pretty cool. I know Micah, I've seen his dad is rented a bus, and they got a crew coming up from Harrisburg. I know, Tarburton will have a bunch of people here, and so on and so forth. So, I know it's exciting for those families. I know it's exciting for those kids, but for us, it's another opportunity to kind of evaluate them and see how close they are, and are they legitimately have a chance to contribute for us in the fall.
Speaking of Tarburton, the decision to move into DN, when was that made? Kind of the reasons going into that?
To be honest with you, that's how we recruited him. Literally the day we offered him telling him, his mom, his dad, that we were offering him as a big athlete. And, that we would give him a chance at linebacker, but he could end up being a defensive lineman for us as well. So that's where it started. And then it progressed when he showed up and stepped on the scale. He was 263 pounds when he showed up here. So that wasn't really me telling him that. That was genetics. He kind of went on this Nutrisystem diet or something, dropped a bunch of weight to kind of give himself a chance to stay at linebacker, and he really did some nice things. And I think he could play linebacker for us, but I think his greatest potential here at Penn State and down the road is at defensive end. So he's already done some nice things for us there, but it was really from the beginning of recruiting him that was a possibility, and his body would tell us who he was going to be.
What do you think it'll take, obviously this summer, this probably won't happen now, but what it'll take this summer to kind of get somebody to separate at that middle linebacker spot? What are you kind of looking for to evaluate that?
Well, it's everything. It's physically, are they able to do it? It's mentally, are they able to do it? There's a lot of, the verbal aspect of that from a leadership standpoint, being able to understand the system well enough and understand what the offense is trying to do formationally to confidently bark out those calls. It's all those things. And, right now, I wouldn't say that we know what the answer is. I think we'll be confident by the time camp ends, but I don't think it'll even be the beginning of camp. I think we'll be pretty far into camp before we decide, because I think we got a lot of inexperienced guys and some veteran guys that are battling for that spot. So for me, the picture hasn't cleaned up yet. I think Coach Pry kind of feels the same way. But it's not like one thing. It's a combination of all those things. It's the physical fundamentals and skills and techniques of doing it. It's the mental understanding of what we're doing, as well as what people are going to try to do against us, and how does that change our calls. It's the leadership aspect. It's all of it. It's all of it. It's durability, and it's trust. At the end of the day, it's trust. It's the coaches trusting who they're going to be able to put out in that position, consistently be able to fill all those roles all the time, or a large percentage of the time.
James, last week after practice, you expressed some unhappiness with how do you feel today went in that second day of walk around?
Yeah, I thought today was good. The hard part for me is I want us to play really competitively, and I want us to play with a lot of emotion. And the hard part is to teach a team, how do you take that right to the edge without crossing the line as a competitor and emotionally. And that's where I think we've done a pretty good job the last couple of years of balancing that we are going to compete so hard at practice, that we're going to play with passion and emotion and have fun, but not ever cross the line. And I thought today, we got a lot of really good work in. We got a lot of situations covered, but I thought there was a few times where we became undisciplined. At the end of the practice there, we did a 2-minute situation. The defense picks the ball off. The game's over. Get down. And we're returning it, cutting back across the field, making 50 guys miss, exposing the football, and then throwing the football up into the stands, which I think we all saw that game a few years ago when they got a penalty like that. Then they kicked off, and then they returned the kickoff. I think it was Tennessee versus Georgia or something like that. So there was just lapses of discipline today that I wasn't really happy with. But overall, I thought it was a very, very good practice. But we just got to mature at a few spots. So that doesn't happen.
Following up on Audrey's question, who all is legitimately in that mix at Mike? How many guys are you going to be?
Too many to list. I mean, to be honest with you, we got guys that are playing Mike. We got guys that are playing the Will. It's too many to list right now, because even the guys that we have listed at Mike linebacker, it's not like it's just those guys. It's all those guys that we have at the inside linebacker position that legitimately could compete. The field backer is a completely different animal. But those two inside backers, it's really could be any of the guys in, the 3 deep really at this point. And what we got is we got some veteran guys that, have really done some nice things. And then we got some young guys that are really talented but lack experience and understanding of what it takes at this level. And that's redshirt freshmen as well as true freshmen. So it's a long list of candidates. You got any eligibility left?
You don't want me you don't want me out there in the field at all, Trusty.
You mentioned kickoffs a minute ago. Your thoughts on the new kickoff proposal or rule, whatever?
Yeah.
At this point.
Before I speak, I want to make sure that I have studied it in detail and I've talked to the officials, because the officials that we have work in practice, and I'm talking not specific to just the kickoff rule, but all the rule changes. When you ask the officials before they've actually had discussions and been clarified, you get 6 different answers. So before I stand up here and speak and tell you my feelings, I want to make sure that I clearly understand it. The one thing I will tell you is I'm a little concerned that we say we need to make these changes in the game to protect the game, which I'm 100% on board with, and a lot of it deals with concussions. But I just haven't seen the data that kickoffs, there's a higher percentage of concussions. There is data that says there's a higher percentage of injuries. But right now, the way I've seen the data, that's hamstrings and everything just thrown together. So I get it. We got to make changes to protect the game. But I will also want to make sure that some of the changes that we're making are aligning based on what we're supposed to be doing. Some of the cut block things that we're talking about right now, does that create now more head-on-head collisions when we're not cut blocking? I don't know. So I need to study it a little bit more and make sure I understand it completely before I have any really strong opinions publicly. But then after that, the rules have been changed. The rules are the rules, and I want to make sure our guys understand and our coaches understand it in detail so that we can take advantage of it.